Welcome to Jameson Talks About Homosexuality. We're going to discuss some of the genetic things that goes on with homosexuality. I am gay, so this hits home for me, and I hope that this teaches some people some cool genetic stuff that they can use to say, I'm gay, it's not a choice, and I hope that this can help us with our fight against ignorance. So, let's get started. What genetic means here? What does it mean here? Well, when scientists say homosexuality is genetic, they usually mean it is heritable genetic differences between people. It explains some, but not all, of the variation in same-sex attraction or behavior. So, since they haven't done a ton of studies, they've done studies with a lot of people, though. They've done quite a few. I wouldn't say a ton, but they've done quite a few. So, heritability is a population statistic. For sexual orientation, many studies estimate that genetics explains a minority to around 1/3 of the variation. So, imagine you have 3 pieces of candy, and one of those pieces of candy is bitter, and the other 2 pieces of candy is sweet. So, the bitter one in this case is gay, and the sweet ones are straight. So, I'm not talking about personality or anything, I'm just using a alliteration here, or whatever. So, 1/3 of the variation, with the rest due to non-genetic, biological, and environmental factors. Now, those biological factors, I'm going to say, are probably heavily outweighing the environmental factors. Environmental factors, I don't think they probably account for very much. So twins and family studies have been done. Twins studies compare identical twins that share 100% of their genes, and fraternal twins, which share 50% of their genes. It's like, twins, they're twins. They're all twins. If one identical twin is homosexual, the other is much more likely to be homosexual than a fraternal twin sibling. So, which points to a genetic component, but the match is far from 100%, which shows genetics is not the whole story. Now, we're going to use some scientific examples here, and this is going to be a little bit, if you don't know biology, get a dictionary, get a textbook, find something, because I'm about to use some language that you probably haven't used since high school. I know that I have used it recently, but it's not, fresh in my mind. One early study reported a concordance of about 65.8% for homosexual orientation in monozygotic identical twins versus 30.4% in dizygotic fraternal twins. Yeah, I know, that's a lot. So, let's break that down again. One early study reported a concordance of about 65.8% for homosexual orientation and monozygotic, mono meaning one, zygote, like organism, that means identical twins, versus 30.4% in which is 2, dizygotic fraternal twins. A recent review notes that identical twin concordance remains well below 100%, reinforcing that environmental and developmental factors also influence orientation. Not a choice. These factors all play into why we are the way we are. In general, twin and family studies suggest substantial heritability, with estimates often in the roughly 30% range, but not complete genetic determination. So, when we're looking at that, that's important. So it's not completely determined by genetics. There are factors that play in: biological, environmental, or developmental. And I know those 3 areas may be a little confusing for some people, and that's totally okay. Totally normal. I understand that. So now we're going to go with GWAS, or also known as Genome-Wide Association Studies. GWAS, or GWAS, or whatever you want to call it, or you could call it GWAS. GWAS scanned the whole genome of hundreds of thousands of people to find specific DNA variants associated with traits, including same-sex sexual behavior. Key findings from a major 2019. So this is in 2019, so it's a little old, little recent. It's kind of middle-aged here for us. 2019 Science Genome-Wide Association studies of about 477,000 to 493,000 people. That's a lot of people. So it's a pretty good test. We can say that with so many people, that means there should be some good results in this. No single gene or locus explains homosexuality. Since nothing fully explains it, a lot of people in the religious community are going to say, well, that's it. I don't want to look at the environmental or developmental or biological factors. I'm going to go straight to sacred scripture. And I am going to go read, and I am going to go look. Calm your roll and pay attention here, because we're going to go into that. So let's get back to this. At least 5 genomic regions, or loci, show statistically significant association with ever having had same-sex sexual behavior. When you add up the effects of millions of common variants, they explain only about 8 to 25% of the variation in same-sex sexual behavior, depending on the model and sex. No, we're not talking about clankers here. Genetic influences overlap between males and females, but are not identical, with a genetic correlation around 0.63 points. The pattern is polygenic, many variants of a very small effect, not a single on-off switch. And as I've always said, there's no switch I can flip on or off that can make me change who I am. Newer work continues to support this polygenic picture and suggests partially distinct genes, distinct genetic influences on same-sex behavior in males and females, and possible evolutionary mechanisms that keep these variants in the population. Other biological and environmental influences. So, we're getting into something important here. Because identical twins are not always matched for sexual orientation, just letting that sit, researchers infer that non-genetic factors also matter. No, we're not talking about sacred scripture. Back to this. These may include prenatal environment, exposure to hormones and other intrauterine conditions that differ even between identical twins. Family structure effects, for example, the older brother effect. Each older brother slightly increases the odds a man is homosexual, points to a prenatal or maternal biological influences, not social copying. See, we're getting there. Let's keep going. Early life and later environment, social, cultural, and personal experiences likely shape how attractions, identities, and behaviors are expressed, even if the direction of attraction has a biological basis. Some studies also explore potential mitochondrial or maternal line effects, such as higher rates of same-sex orientation among maternal uncles or sons, conceived via sperm donation to lesbian couples, suggesting complex inheritance beyond simple nuclear genes. Oh, and for all of you people that are pro-nuclear family, please, come on. Drop that and understand that this is a melting pot. So let's put it together. What we cannot say, homosexuality is not a choice in the sense of being freely decided. It is strongly shaped by underlying biology, including genetics. So this is what we can and cannot say. What we can say is homosexuality is not a choice in the sense of being freely decided. It is strongly shaped by underlying biology, including genetics. Homosexuality is not fully genetic, in the sense of a simple deterministic trait, the way some single gene diseases are. It's not a disease. So it's not single gene, it's not a disease, it's not going to kill us. Instead, many genes each have small effects in environment, and development also play an important role. Very important. Why is that important? It's just really important. So, we can also say for certain there is no single gay gene, and current genetic information cannot accurately predict an individual's sexual orientation or behavior. It means if you go to have your baby genetically tested, you will not know if it's gay or not. Bon appetit. Yeah, I'm just saying. That's how it works. You can't have any genetic testing that will tell you if it's going to be gay or not. Most experts now view sexual orientation as a complex trait arising from an interplay of multiple genetic, hormonal, developmental, and environmental influences. So let's break this down simply. Let's make sure the simple baseline is here. People do not just decide who they are attracted to. Attraction arises on its own without choosing it. That's the main part. Large studies show genes have some influence on whether a person ever has same-sex relationships, but they are only part of the story. That is what we've learned. So, your attractions are something that happens to you more than something you pick, and your genes are one of the several reasons why. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Scientists estimate that genes explain maybe about a third. So, 1/3. So, 1 piece of candy, 2 pieces of candy, 3 pieces of candy. So, one of those pieces of candy is going to be weird, taste different, maybe. I'm just giving you an example. Of why people differ in being straight, gay, or bisexual. The rest is other biology and life experiences. So, that's what we can infer. This is a lot, but we'll get through it, I promise. Genes push things a bit in one direction, but they do not fully decide your orientation. Just like you do not decide your orientation. Not even at all. Is there a single gay gene? So we've already learned this. A huge study of almost 500,000 people found no single gay or straight gene. Perfectly normal. Studies suggest things in the womb before birth also affect orientation, such as hormone levels and how the developing brain is shaped. Important. So let's sum this up. Homosexuality is a natural variation in human sexuality that appears in many cultures and also in other animal species. Penguins, for example. It comes from a mix of genes, biology before birth, and life experience, with none of these acting alone and none giving total control. Being gay is not a simple choice and not a simple gene. It's a normal part of human diversity that arises from a complex mix of inherited and biological factors plus life. If you have any questions, please comment, and I'll get back to you. Thank you.